Good morning, everybody. My name's Gene Coltas. I'm the presiding member for the Metropolitan Outer Development Assessment Panel meeting today. I declare the meeting open at 9:32 a.m. and in doing so, I acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respect to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with DAP Standing Orders 2024 and the Planning and Development Act Development Assessment Panels Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with the Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development Assessment Panels Regulation 2011. And when you're speaking, please announce your name and title. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. And the members today are myself as presiding member, Dale Page as deputy presiding member, Jackie German as specialist member, and from the City of Gosnells, Councillor Baines and Councillor Good. And for Part C, Councillors Willinger and Councillor Peter from City of Armadale. I have an apology from Councillor Michael Hancock from the City of Armadale. There are no members on leave of absence, and minutes of previous meetings are on the DAP website for those that want to look at them. Part B of the meeting, City of Gosnells. We have as the councillors and panel members, as I mentioned, and first item on the agenda there is to confirm from all panel members that they have duly considered all of the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information. Panel members, please signify by raising your hand. That's fine, it's unanimous. Item 2, declaration of interest. I have not received any at this stage. Panel members, is there any other additional declarations of interest? Councillors, was this item that we're going to consider at a council meeting at all? Considered at the council?
No, it hasn't come to council, the particular item.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, this is a DAP application for Southern River Road Shopping Centre there. That's for a fast food outlet. And Mr. Kennedy is here to do a presentation. Miss, would you like to, we have read it. If you'd like to speak to it, please.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Coltas. I'm here speaking on behalf of Armadale Royal Group. We're the owner and applicant for this proposal. We support the recommendation that's been made by the city. As you would be aware, this is a minor amendment to an existing approval. The parent approval is for a shopping centre which has now been built, constructed, and that centre is known as Southern River Square. This proposal effectively is a change of use. So the original approval provided for a gym at this location within the centre. We're proposing, as you'd be aware, a fast food outlet. The centre is a designated neighbourhood centre. SPP 4.2 does support fast food proposals like this in neighbourhood centres. Prior to lodging the application, we did meet with staff to make sure that we covered off on all the key considerations such as noise, traffic, fire management and also waste disposal. Those matters have been considered thoroughly in the application, and that can be seen from the officer's assessment report. As I said at the beginning, we support the proposal and we ask that the committee approve this application. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Kennedy. Panel members, any questions of the presenter?
Not at this stage.
If not, thank you, Chris. You can stay where you are for the time being, and we'll open up to panel members to question the council staff if there's anything at all. You have a question? Dale, if you'd like.
Yes, thank you, presiding members. So were the submissions raising concern about potential increases in traffic that would affect the use of the car park raised by nearby residents or by other tenants in the shopping centre? Are you able to give us that information?
As far as I understand, it was raised by a tenant, nearby owners of land, not any tenants in the centre itself.
Okay, thank you. And then I note from the previous conditions of approval, specifically condition 9, that before the issue of a building permit, the applicant needed to submit amended plans, which included that 2-metre high masonry wall on the boundary between the site and residential properties. The condition doesn't actually state that the wall needed to be built, as suggested in the RA on page 4. Is that correct? So condition 9 doesn't refer to the need for construction prior to issue of a building permit. It just refers to the need for submission of amended plans.
Well, typically, you couldn't build the wall without a permit anyway. So the amended plan to include it as part of the building permit would have ensured its construction, as we've outlined in
Sorry, those amended plans were then received with the building permit, yeah?
Yeah, they were, yeah. And so we've got a legal agreement in place for the construction of that wall, and that component hasn't occurred as yet.
Okay, are you able to give us a time frame for construction of that wall?
The applicant would be better placed for that. At the current stage, as it stands, the applicant has sought an extension on the agreement due to difficulty obtaining a contractor to actually construct the wall.
Yes.
You have a time frame, an estimated time frame?
We're confident that wall will be completed prior to the occupancy of this proposal.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, you had a question there?
Dale actually beat me to it. My questions were also about condition 9 and particularly around that timing and so just clarification on the legal agreement. Does that have a timing? Because it mentioned it as soon as practicable. Does it mention anything about prior to occupation?
So the agreement did have a specified time frame in it, which was initially June last year. And that was extended by way of letter, which I'm pretty sure pushes it out to June this year.
Okay, thank you. Put that down to the query. Jackie, you happy with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any further questions of the officers? If not, thank you, Mr Kennedy, and council officers. We can now move into the debate on the item. In order to do so, I will need a mover to the responsible authority report recommendation. Do I have a mover, please?
I'm happy to move.
Councillor Good. Seconder? Councillor Baines.
Thank you.
Councillor Good, you wish to speak to the item, please.
Yes, please. Mr. Presiding Member, from my recollection, I was probably on the original JDAP back in 2019, but I'll allow the records to approve or disprove that. I think it's a very good shopping centre. It is a modest one, but this space was always designed to be flexible and dynamic if they couldn't do a gym to do something else. Parking is really well managed. I've been there numerous times myself, although it's not my local shopping centre as such. But it's a good facility. It'll be good for the area. I have no problems with fast food as such. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of it suits people. And it's actually very well laid out, and I actually quite like the design, but that's just a personal opinion. I think it meets all parameters, and it's a shame about the wall in terms of taking time, but we must remember this is all happening through the COVID years, and construction was not easy. But well done to the developers, and I'm certainly supportive of this being a fast food outlet, and to me it meets all requirements and planning guidelines. So I support it.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Baines, you wish to speak to the item as seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Nothing much to comment from myself. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory application. I have no issues and I'll be supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other panel members wish to speak for or against the item?
Please.
Dale?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to support. It's a minor change to the plan. So, and the use is typical of a neighbourhood centre. I note that there were objections received about the type of use, but it is fairly typical of a neighbourhood centre. I note that other objections were received to the proposal, but I do feel that the issues raised, in my view, are either unsubstantiated or have been responded to via conditions of approval. Yes, there will be a slight increase in vehicle movements, but as per the findings of the traffic impact assessment, these will easily be accommodated in the surrounding road network, and the on-site parking demand should actually decrease. Although compliance with previous conditions of planning approval is not really a matter for this panel to get closely involved in, I can understand some of the resident concerns about noise, particularly given the noise wall that was flagged some years ago hasn't been built yet. But I note the information that was provided by the city and by the applicant today about the steps they're taking to get the noise wall built. So I'm happy to support on that basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie German, do you wish to speak at all?
No, not really. I'm supportive of the proposal and agree that it's a minor amendment that can be accommodated within the original conditions of approval.
Thank you. I too am supporting it, and all of the matters I was going to raise have been addressed. So I will now ask Councillor Good to close debate on the item.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Then I'll put the item to a vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Move to item. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. See you next time.
Bye for now.
Now, do we have staff and other councillors? Okay, we'll now move on to part C of our agenda, the City of Armadale. Panel members, including Councillor Wheelinga and Councillor Chavanas Peter. I'll ask all panel members to confirm that they have duly considered all of the documentation contained within part C of the agenda and part C related information by raising their hands, please. Thank you. Is Councillor Wheelinga on there? Oh, sorry. My apologies. Didn't notice. Okay, thank you. All right, declaration of interest. I haven't had any at this stage. Do any panel members wish to declare an interest at all? If not, councillors, was the item considered at a council meeting? No? Okay, thank you. All right, well, we do have presenters here, and Denise Morgan. Thank
So-
you, Denise.
Thank you. Cassie Rodwell and Aaron Hayes. Aaron is from the developer, Five
Okay.
Capital, and Cassie is from Wallace Project Management. So they'll, online, we also have Richard Harris from Five Capital and Kelsey Davies, who is a landscape architect, and Greg, who is our architect. So between us, we should be able to field
Cover all bases.
any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Denise.
So,
Have your presentation. We all have had a chance to look at it. So,
thank you. Yes,
And I do remind you that,
3 minutes.
well, notionally, I think we can stretch it out if we need to at this stage.
Well, Lisa, thank you for your time. I don't propose to speak to all of the slides because indeed we only have 3 minutes. So I'm going to skip straight to the salient points which are relating to the conditions so I'll just skip through these. I'm happy to go back to any of the other slides, and I have some additional slides at the end, but just in case are helpful. But essentially, these are all related to timing. I want to acknowledge that the City of Armadale has been very collaborative with us throughout and have been very helpful. And some of the earlier draft conditions that we were concerned about, they've actually heard. But the critical thing here is that Auto Care are currently occupying the site of the airport, which they are required to vacate by the end of July this year in order for the runway project to get going. In order to be off the site by the end of July, they need to start relocating approximately 1,500 vehicles by the middle of July this year onto a development site. So you can see that we've got a really critical timeline because the development needs to be constructed to occupancy. And with that as the background, the conditions, condition 2, we have no objections to the content, but just note that the exact same requirement is replicated in condition 11. And so we suggest that that one is not necessary. Condition 7 relates to the provision of reticulated sewage. We can speak to that more if it helps, but essentially Water Corporation timing is not something that we have control over, and therefore we would just like a bit of an amendment to the wording of this one to allow the possibility for an extension should, heaven forbid, we still be without reticulated sewer in 2 years. You can be assured that, in fact, we're very committed to connecting to that as soon as it's available. Condition 18, that's just a typo. It refers to another condition, so that could be reworded to read condition 17. That would be good. Conditions 23 and 24, we appreciate that the city is offering the option of a legal agreement. We just request that that be tied to the occupation of the development rather than 90 days of approval. I am aware of some conversations which have happened in the past day that I was not party to, which have suggested perhaps a slightly different time frame, which I'll let the city speak to. But as I understand it, we are happy with that proposal, which was 150 days from the date of this approval, which we hope we'll get today. There is some wording in condition 24 as it currently reads, which is just a little bit unclear whether they're linked, the time frame is linked to commencement of construction of roads, which is actually it's already commenced. It's a subdivision application in the background. So we just wanted to be clear that is in fact the condition of development approval that linked to. Condition 28 is a straightforward duplication of condition 15. Advice note B, although it's only an advice note, we appreciate that. We also are very conscious that other people interpret and read the planning approvals, and there is a risk of this being interpreted in a very black and white way. And at the moment, it's relating to the temporary, the condition relating to ATUs, which are required while we have no reticulated sewage, is relating to the information in support of the application for that temporary system to be prior to lodging a building permit. Our time frame is so tight that we're looking to be lodging a building permit application in the next couple of weeks. If a site soil evaluation is required, that can't even commence until after this winter's rains, and the whole development will not be able to happen. There has been a lot of work done and continues to be being done, which we can provide more information about if you would like. That leads us to be very confident that the ATUs can be installed and operated successfully. They are only temporary and any more than that, but it's critical for us that this be changed to prior to occupation of the development. That would be, we trust, sufficient time. And advice note N, it's not a big deal, but there is no spray booth, so it's just not necessary from our point of view. So those are the conditions. I'm happy to speak to any other aspects. I understand you've had a look at our presentation, so maybe not, but that's it.
Thank you, Denise. Panel members, are there any questions of the presenter? Yes, Councillor.
Yes, relating to condition 23 and 24, where officers have suggested changing the 90 days to 150 days to be more flexible. Can I ask if that's going to be okay?
Yeah, so that's the conversation that I referred to. That does give us a bit more time to negotiate the content. I'm very happy with that. Thank you. And we appreciate that concession as well.
Okay, any further questions?
Thank you. Just
Yes.
just a couple. So taking the point you made about advice note B, in the submissions that you provided, you said that if insisted upon, the development wouldn't be able to proceed. It's only an advice note. So why wouldn't the development proceed on the basis of an advice note? And if the development didn't proceed, then where would it go in the time frame you have?
Well, I can't answer the second question, but whether it's more, our concern is how the advice note is interpreted, given that the approval of an ATU is not through the planning team, it's through the health team, health department. And the wording of advice notes can become very literal for those who are reading it. So we're just nervous that will be used to say no, we're not going to accept your building permit application until this is done, and it's just impossible. It can't be done until after winter. We think that there has been a lot of work being done, the details of which can ask Cassie about if necessary, on drainage for the area generally. And I understand that the absence of reticulated sewer is in part due to advice given by DWER to Water Corporation relating to drainage, stormwater drainage. And this has been addressed in the context of the overall estate. Stage 2 as well, as I understand it, is stage 2 of the structure plan is currently being advertised. We're part of approvals stage 1. That is with DWER, or the remodelled work is with DWER, and we're just trying to doing everything in our power to get a response from DWER so that we can move on, but it's a little bit out of our control at the moment. In fact, I read an email this morning, I don't know if you saw it, Cassie, from this department asking DWER where they were at with that because it's holding up subdivision.
Okay, good. Thank you. Second question. There's some commentary in the RA that the issues raised by the design review panel were responded to by focusing on your client's operational requirements rather than trying to improve the design outcomes. Can you comment on that, please?
Might be a good one to get Greg in on, but yes, I did have a slide in here which explains the functional operation of the site and the design elements. There were some comments about the building, which, well, it's a warehouse and it has quite a bit of architectural detailing, but it's also a functional building, not a public place. And it's contemporary design, not dissimilar to other contemporary large warehouse developments with a small office component. The nature of the work, this slide shows you the functional areas, is a highly secure site necessarily because of the nature of the business, and it's therefore essential to functionally separate different areas of security, and that has driven the design a lot. There were a lot of options considered in the design development about where should the building go. Initially, there was thinking about addressing Rowley Road as sort of the main road, but that is closer to some rural residential use to the south. And for various reasons, it is actually quite a tricky site to fit everything on. This is where it's landed because it was most efficient. The tenant, Autocare, has had input into this and previous options, and this is the option that they think will work most effectively for them. Other detailed design questions I could perhaps throw to the architect or the landscape architect, but that has very much been behind it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? No. Jackie, I saw that you had a question.
Yeah, just like to get an update, please, on the implementation of the subdivision conditions.
Can I ask Cassie to address that? Does she need to come closer to the speaker?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Jackie, thank you for your question. So in relation to the broader subdivision, we are working through the conditions. There are a number of conditions that are probably at the point where they are ready to clear. However, there are some other conditions, particularly related to water and sewage reticulation, that we are delayed on. As Denise spoke to previously, we are up against it a little bit with DWER and Watercorp in being able to resolve the drainage issues. Once we have those drainage issues resolved, that will essentially unlock our ability to speak with Watercorp regarding water and sewer services to the site. That predominantly is what is delaying things at the moment. We're unable to complete the construction of some of our roads that have been approved as part of that subdivision, purely because the sewer design at the moment is proving, to put it very deep, which would necessitate that whole road reserve to be dug up to essentially install that. So that's roughly where we're at the moment with the subdivision.
Could I just add that we don't know that DWER doesn't support the revised, they haven't responded.
And just to follow up on that, have you had any initial consultation with the Department of Health about the ATU feasibility and design requirements?
So for a previous development within the estate, we did have to go down the path of the ATU, which we have run through with the city and the Department of Health. A lot of lessons learned taken out of that one, which we are implementing into the ATU design for this proposed development. We have had some very early liaison with the City of Armadale's Department of Health Services. I don't believe that that has been referred on as yet to the actual Department of Health. It's just with the city at the moment. They had a number of questions and queries around the design, which our contractor is currently gathering information on. We are looking to undertake some testing to support the application, and our geotechnical consultant will liaise with the Department of Health in that regard as well.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, Dale, you've got a follow-up.
Sorry, just as a follow-up to the question that Jackie asked about the subdivision, what is the status of the urban water management plan?
So the urban water management plan, so there's two conditions that sit in the subdivision approval. One is local government and one is water corp. The local government condition, the City of Armadale has approved in the previous form. In terms of clearing the water corp condition, Water Corp have referred it to DeWer because it is predominantly drainage related, and that is where we're stuck at the moment. We've responded to DeWer's queries, submitted an addendum to the UWMP on, I think it was the 25th of November, and we're currently awaiting further feedback from DeWer as to whether that has addressed their concerns and issues.
So when is the urban water management plan considered approved?
That's a very good question. I think ultimately Water Corporation own the condition, but they do get that on advice from DeWer. My understanding is that once DeWer have, accepted the UWMP and are comfortable with what is being proposed, that will sort of pave the way for Water Corp to provide a formal clearance of it and acceptance of it as well. In which case we would also then need to take that back to the City of Armadale with the addendum to make sure that we're covering off both of those conditions fully.
Thank you.
Yes, Jackie.
Sorry, just a follow-up question. I think Denise mentioned that you're getting ready to prepare a building permit application. Is that a building permit for the whole development, or are you looking at staging your building permits?
No, it would be for the whole development. Probably with the exclusion of the ATU while we resolve the approvals of that. But I think there is, I'm sure of the condition off the top of my head, there is a condition that will require that ATU to be approved and installed prior to occupation certificate being issued.
Okay, and it may be something that the city can answer in a minute, but my understanding is that to issue a building permit that there needs to be a compliance or a level of approval for the sewage disposal. The city may want to comment on that one just from a timing perspective.
Thank you. Councillor Peter, do you have any questions at all? Hello.
Yes, President Member, just for clarification for Councillor Berling, a question of the condition 23 and 24. The applicant is happy to accept 150 days for the.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
They're happy to accept. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have some queries. I mean, this area has been done to death with studies over the last decade or more. I recall in my previous life working for a developer that was looking at this land, and the structure planning and rezoning would have really covered a lot of the urban water management issues, the drainage issues, the sewage issues. What's the hold up at the moment with a lot of this? Because is it just because it's a fresh proposal?
No. So I think I think with this one, while there were, you're right, there was a lot of investigations that were done as part of the structure planning that produced a local water management strategy, which is very high level. The next step in that is the urban water management plan, which kind of just dives into the detail a little bit further and requires even more investigations. It is, you're obviously familiar with the area. In winter, it becomes very, very wet.
Waterlogged.
We do have a resource wetland area to the west
I can
of
see that.
stage 1 subdivision area as well, which we're mindful of. So yeah, it's really in that. And look, we had some issues with some consultants early on as well. We had a change in our consultant team, which kind of set things back a little bit. But where we're at now, from our perspective, we have taken on board the concerns that DEWER had raised regarding the drainage. To their point, they obviously don't want downstream to be impacted by anything that we're doing as part of our development works. We've taken that on board, done the remodelling to demonstrate to them, and it's currently with DEWER at the moment. That really is the pinch point for us, is we're just waiting for that feedback to come back from them.
Okay. And in regard to the sewer, if it's going to be deep, and you're not constructing the road, where's your access going to come from? Is there a temporary access arrangement from Rowley Road?
We will have temporary access roads from internal to the site. So there will be, so the roundabout works along Rowley Road that form part of the subdivision. That will be completed, and then access to the tenant's site will be via temporary internal access roads.
Okay. I'll recall that. Okay, any further question of the presenters? If not, I presume, Mr. Sanders, you're going to be available to answer some queries of the panel in regard to, first of all, do you wish to make any comment on the presentation from the applicants? Paul?
Thanks, Chair. I suppose in general, we've done a very similar development recently, just sort of to the northeast, with the same developer, but a competing firm, who is actually the operator. And we've had some, rigorous experience in trying to manage the delays in basically the servicing of the site, which is complicated by the roads not being able to be built to actually still facilitate that development. Certainly not ideal, but we did manage to manage that process in a bit of a clunky way with the applicants. And it's similar to this, where things aren't done in a logical order, and that's why it's a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. But we certainly understand the operator needs to exit the airport, and they're an important use for the state, and we need to really help wherever we can. I thought, if I may, just run through some of the changes to the conditions to assist the panel. As you may know, we're sort of doing these things on the run a little bit. In terms of condition 7, we were happy with the alternative wording proposed by the applicant for the 2-year period to be able to be extended. It was in the yellow text. Yep. Fairly simple. And we acknowledge that condition 18 should have the correct worded condition, being number 17. In terms of condition 23 and 24, we weren't keen on having things prior to occupancy, just simply because there's so many other significant tasks to be done at that occupancy stage in the building permit, the occupancy permits and the health permits, that we wanted to actually have it sorted out before then. And that's why we suggested 150 days yesterday, which should be ample time to resolve a fairly simple legal agreement. We acknowledge that condition 28 is a duplication of condition 15. And as you've probably guessed, we're a bit rushed putting this report together, but we managed to get it done within the timeframes. In terms of advice note B, we're happy to amend the wording to the applicant's wording, just to change in yellow on the screen there. Essentially, the JDAP and the city don't have the power to do the specifications anyway. So it's kind of the Department of Health approval process. So the parties need to satisfy the Department of Health rather than the JDAP or the city. So in terms of the effluent disposal system, we do know it's a temporary system, so we're just trying to manage risk over that time period. And we were of the understanding they were going to do some minor spray painting on site, but if they're not, we're happy to remove advice note N. And if you had any queries on any of those, they're all fairly simple. And I suppose, Chair, it's quite a significant development and get to the point where we're sort of debating a couple of minor conditions is a really good outcome for the applicant and ourselves.
I tend to agree. Thank you. Any panel members wish to seek clarification or yes, Dale?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Paul, I have a few questions, if you don't mind indulging me. The stormwater management plan required by condition 16 to be submitted prior to occupation needs to be informed by the urban water management plan. Would the city be comfortable to clear condition 16 if the urban water management plan hasn't been approved by Water Corp and DUA?
So with the first development, which is the other competing operator, we've actually approved a very similar plan with the urban water management plan not being completed, and we make assumptions around what the outlets are and how much water management needs to be retained on site. And there's an obvious risk to the operator in the sense that if they're not able to secure their arrangements with the Water Corp, they'll have to retain more drainage on site, and then we'll have to have that arrangement with them.
Thank you. Condition 11 requires submission and an approval of an amended landscape plan, and then it goes on to specify what needs to be in that landscape plan, including a 3-metre wide landscaping strip on the eastern boundary and trees in the parking in front of the building. But those two requirements were dealt with in condition 2. So is it necessary to have condition 2 at all? And if so, wouldn't you then condition the other elements of the landscape plan specified in condition 11?
The conditions serve two different purposes. One is about the revised plan being determining the actual location of the infrastructure to then lend them the chance to have to construct all the other infrastructure, whereas the landscape plan actually determines the detail, the types of planting, the reticulation, all those other elements that come in the detailed landscape plan. So I'd envisage the condition 2 would be a very simple plan just outlining where the strip is and how any other infrastructure adjoining it adjusts. And we're hoping they don't have to move any buildings or anything. And therefore, we understand there's no implications, and we would expect that to be turned around quite quickly because it's a very high level indicative plan. And then condition 11 would be a proper landscape plan with submissions and detailed drawings.
Okay. Condition 8 requires the acoustic report to be continuously implemented. In order that there's an independent or an identified adjudicator on whether this is actually occurring or not, as you know, sometimes your view as to whether it's being implemented might not be the same as the operator's view. Would it be appropriate to include the words "to the satisfaction of the City of Armadale" at the end of condition 8?
Yes, we usually do that. We didn't in this one. We were a bit rushed, but essentially, most of these acoustic assessments are very clear cut using the technology of the noise meters and things like that. And it's actually a conversation around how we manage that noise and how we change that. So sometimes it's got to do with how vehicles move on a site and reverse, and sometimes it's got to do with plant. And sometimes the plant just needs shields. So we deal with a lot of these sites, and what we're trying to do is make sure it operates appropriately day one, and then after that it's the infrastructure is maintained so it doesn't work. So we've already had noise complaints about the other operation, which is actually further away from housing. So we're very mindful, and the applicant's been very accommodating, trying to work with us to make sure that from day one they comply with the noise regs.
Thank you. I understand the need for the condition. I just think it might be important to make it clear in the condition who makes the final call on whether it's being implemented appropriately or not. Just on condition 9, in my view, it's duplicating the intent of condition 8. Is condition 9 needed?
So condition 9 didn't include all the infrastructure that's on site that we believe may generate noise, was the first one. And so that's why we wanted the amended report.
One does refer to commercial and industrial nearby premises. The other one talks about noise at sensitive premises. I'm presuming that means nearby residential.
Yeah.
I guess if you feel that they're quite different and the intent of the conditions are quite different, that's fine. I was confused about why you would need the two separate conditions. That's all, and I just thought comment on that.
Okay.
That's all good. There's a minor typo in condition 11G. Are you happy for us to remove the word provision administratively as it's been stated twice? We'll just deal with that as an administrative thing.
Yeah, so I thought we actually deleted that one in our last review, but we didn't. Sorry.
That's all good. Can you walk me through the wording of condition 12A? I'm struggling to get my head around what that's saying.
Catherine, 12A, we weren't happy with the submitted dust management plan, is that?
It was a draft document, so it's not been finalised in any shape.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll just check with Catherine who would have assessed it. Do you know if we...
The condition makes it clear that a dust management plan needs to be prepared. And then when I read 12A, I couldn't understand it in the context of that condition.
Sorry, I think the wording probably needed to be better, saying that the current submitted plan is insufficient. That's why we need a new amended plan. Dust is a significant issue because they're importing 3 metres of fill, and the winds are pretty significant, particularly this time of year out there. So certainly the wording of that condition could have been just require an amended dust management plan rather than to say it's insufficient.
I think the wording would be if the submitted dust management plan is insufficient, etc.
Can I just, add and jump in? Condition 27 also covers dust under the construction management plan. So would it not be simpler just to include in the construction management plan?
See why you'd have a few duplications while you're assessing the run, Paul. So
the condition 12's chair is really around the filling of the site, and the other ones are around construction management. They do work together. Generally what we've found is one construction management plan covers all those other areas of the detailed plan, like acoustic reports and all those, and actually links them all together into one document for the construction company, who actually will only look at that construction management plan as a general rule.
I can understand, especially in sort of foothills areas, when you're dealing with dust at earthworks fill stages. Okay.
Just a couple more.
Yes, go ahead.
Condition 13 states that staff and visitor car parking demand shall not exceed the number of parking bays available on site. But how can you condition demand, and how would you manage demand from a compliance perspective?
There's various. We apply this condition to a lot of uses, and generally it's the operators will, if they have a very large need to bring 100 people on site and only got like 50 bays, they would come up with a way of trying to accommodate that elsewhere on the site. So generally what we're asking them to do is to match the number of parking bays they need with the number of staff and visitors they expect. And that's about managing their operations so they don't invite, 100 visitors one day when there's no parking available. Essentially, there's no parking, public parking in these areas. I tend to think it's not going to be such a big issue for this sort of site, because unless they've got too many cars they've stored and start storing them in their visitor bays, they've got ample parking across their site to accommodate parking on site. It'll be whether it affects their operations or not. So we generally, so other examples would be when we have gyms and things like that, we ask them to maintain a gap between their classes that then allows people to leave and the bays to become available and another person can use that bay. So very similar approach here, where they just, you know, manage their operations so it suits their demand.
Thank you. Condition 29 confused me a little. It requires all conditions to be complied with prior to exercising the right of the approval. So what do you mean by exercising the right of the approval? If it means commencement of works, then this condition is problematic, because some stated conditions can only be complied with once works actually commence. So what do you mean by prior to exercising the right?
Yeah, so it's, that's a standard condition we've used, and I suppose the JDAP's looked at it a few times over the years, and generally it's a one based on our legal advice and when we go to do compliance on conditions. So generally them exercising the approval is when they start operating, and that's when all the conditions work come into effect. And obviously the ones that are, you know, development or construction type conditions, they fall away because naturally they've been completed.
Okay, I'll deal with it. Okay, thank you. And then advice note U duplicates condition 1. Do you need it?
Sorry, I didn't hear which number.
Advice note U is a duplicate of condition 1. You actually need it.
Yeah, so what, I suppose that's the different format the city uses to the JDAP. So if that's a duplication, that can be deleted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of Mr. Sanders? No? Okay. Thank you, presenters and Paul. That being the case, we can now proceed to debate, challenge debate on the item. And in order to do so, I shall need a mover and seconder. Do I have a mover? Yes, Councillor Minga. Seconder? Yes, Councillor Peter. Yes, Councillor Willingham.
Will I be able to move the amendments as well?
Yes, in doing so, you can move them either prior to as amending motions.
Yeah, let's do them all separately.
Yeah, but we'll do them separately.
Do them separately?
One after the other. Yes, thanks. There seems to be a juxtaposition of conditions, and I'm sure other panel members will have their say as well.
Okay, so should I just speak to the?
We can speak to the item initially and then move amendments. Yes.
So generally, I think the city is application. We would like to see these in the city of Armadale, and it is unfortunate that there's these time constraints. It's not surprising to me that we have a lot of water and drainage and sewage and whatnot problems there, because the whole of One from Urban Water is also quite delayed based on these problems of level differences, etc. But it has been zoned, already planned a long time as an industrial area. So this is what we're hoping for, industrial applications. So I'm broadly supportive of it, but I did want to make a few changes and some of these amendments that you saw as well. So how—
Sorry, Councillor, can I just get you to speak up a bit louder, because the people online just can't actually hear you.
Oh,
it's a bit quiet. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, broadly happy with it, but would like to make some of the changes listed.
Okay, well,
So how would I
you
go
have
about
them
this?
one by one.
One by one. Well, firstly, to deal with what the conditions that have been mentioned, the proposed deletion of condition 2, I would not support. The officers have stated why that prefer that to be different. And I also wanted to make a change here about the how wide that strip was. The design review panel said 5 metres, and so I was hoping to get that changed from 3 to 5 metres, because I don't think 3 metres is in that area with nearly 7 hectares of impermeable hard stand next to it. I think 3 metres would struggle to actually support any vegetation there. So I would prefer that was saying 5 metres.
So this is for condition 2.
Condition 2, but that landscaping strip is also then, as we know, mentioned in condition 11 as well. And so, yes, all the other
sorry, Councillor Willingham, would you like me to get that wording up on the screen for everyone?
Yes, please. Condition 2 to say 5 metres, and then in condition 11, just a slight reference to the types of plants that was mentioned in the report.
Let's deal with condition 2. Yes, you're moving
an amendment to seek a widening of that 3 metre landscape strip to 5 metres, so that I believe it would work better to be planted out next to that much hard stand. I don't think 3 metres is wide enough. And I think
so this, what's on the screen is your proposed wording, or you've just
condition 2, changing it from a minimum of 3 to a minimum of 5.
Who put the 5 in just then?
Sorry, I asked.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew.
Everything else is the same.
Okay.
That was it.
All right. Do I have a seconder to change that? Jackie? Yes, you're proposing that. You've explained that. Jackie, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, I just had a look at the submitted plans attached to the report, and it actually does have 5 metres on it as well, so I'm happy to support that, and I understand the councillor's reasonings.
Just check the plan. I think that talks about well, the plans show the 5 metres there as a combined landscape strip and drainage swale. Is that what your intention is, or you just want it to be a 5 metre landscape strip and another 5 metres or another?
Just 5 metre landscape.
But that's already on the plan, isn't it?
That's not how sorry.
I'm just trying to make sure that we're dealing with, I see a 5 metre landscape dash drainage swale, so it's got a combined purpose.
Yes.
You're saying that the provision of minimum 5 metre wide landscaping strip.
Yes.
What happens with the drainage swale then?
In addition, I think.
In addition, so you're talking about a 10 metre, I mean, I'm presuming the 5 metre landscape drainage swale that's shown is, because along the frontage of Rowley Road, there's a 3 metre landscape strip plus a 10 metre drainage swale.
That's different, yeah, on the Rowley Road, yes.
Paul's just raised his hand.
Paul, can you clarify something here? Can't see.
Sorry, I was unmuted. I thought someone unmuted me. Sorry, Chair. Yeah, so the eastern side is actually doesn't have any landscape strip. So Rowley Road's the south side, and the curving road is the north and west side. So this amendment is only that eastern side, which there isn't a landscaping strip at the moment.
Okay, sorry, I was looking at the wrong side of it.
Yeah, I think page 118 of the agenda, 181, sorry, of the agenda has the plan that you might be looking for.
Okay. That's the adjoining land, adjoining site, isn't it?
No, I'm not on the existing site.
Sorry, so Paul, you're saying that where there is no landscaping, this is the intent of this condition, because it's definitely not clear in that condition.
Well, I suppose the condition says along the eastern boundary of the development. Yeah, so when you look at page 181, I suppose I'm looking at that plan. I have the benefit of that plan in front of me, and it's that line that will complete the circle around the actual development in terms of a green link.
And has there, sorry, while we've got you, has there been any implications from a bushfire perspective?
So obviously it's a high risk bushfire area. The major risks are generally from the west and the north. We would allow gaps in this for fire management in terms of the continuous link, and obviously you manage it in terms of where the buildings are and everything else in terms of fire risk. So we believe these sorts of things can be managed, and it's about managing the vegetation to create the canopy, but the level of understory would be controlled from a fire management point of view.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And has that been discussed with the applicants regarding the width of the, although they had no queries on that condition anyway, did they, the applicants? The 3 metres?
The original applicant submission was to delete condition 2 in its entirety.
Yes.
I would say that I've probably confused myself that I would not support the 5 metres. I don't feel that's necessary.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, yes, the condition 11, I just want to make sure that we're all covering that.
Do you want to deal with
That
condition?
talks about a 3 metre wide landscaping strip. So the applicants haven't objected to that. So you're saying 5, Jackie, you seconded the item, but you're not happy with 5 and you're accepting 3. I too would prefer to leave it at 3 metres because the applicants are okay with it, but I just think that it probably better off leaving it at 3 metres.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, sorry, councillor.
Oh, we just need a vote because you've got a mover and a seconder.
Yeah, we've got a mover and a seconder. All right, well, we'll put that to a vote that it be extended 5 metres. All in favour? Councillor Peter, we can't see which way you're voting.
President Member, I'm happy to keep us 3 metres.
Okay, so all those against the 5 metres? Yes, okay, that's defeated. So we'll stay at 3 metres as that, and the condition is to remain. There's no mover to delete condition 2. Is that correct? That's at this stage anyway. Okay, sorry to do that in a roundabout sort of way, but the applicants and council are doing things on the run. We're doing them on the run as well. So, councillor, please continue.
So then, looking at the condition 7, that the applicant had suggested that it said within 2 years ended by mutual agreement, which was just discussed. Happy to move that change.
Happy to move that change. Okay, do we have a seconder? Yes, Dale, thank you. We can vote on that straight away, can we?
They want to speak?
You wish to speak?
No, I think everyone's
That's just fine. I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
Anyone wish to speak against? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All in favour of? That's unanimous. So proposed amendment as requested for condition 7 is carried. Councillor?
The typo in condition 18 is corrected.
I think that we can deal with that as a typographical error administratively.
And condition 23 and 24 to change 90 days to 150 days.
Okay, you're moving that. Do I have a seconder? Dale, thank you. Any debate on the item? You wish to speak to the item?
The condition 23 and 24?
Yes. No, okay. All right, we'll vote on that. All those in favour of that amendment to 150 days? That's carried unanimously. So that's condition 23 and 24 are changed.
Sorry to jump backwards. Can I go back to condition 11?
Certainly can, yes.
I had some wording change for the plant type. Just that it includes in A and sensitive to the location because of the water sensitive urban design. I'm trying to emphasise that we are looking at, we're very close to wetlands there, so that the species type when they do their landscape plan is cognizant of the wetland area. And then in B, that it talks about canopy cover because it's such a small area that's being landscaped that it would be best if the landscaping used in those areas had some reasonable canopy covering those areas,
yes, okay.
rather than just anything too small.
Right.
I mean, small stuff as well, but so
Okay.
those two changes. Can I move that?
Yes,
together?
you
Just
move.
with that condition, did you want to do the type or the double provision as well as part of that one?
There is in condition
G, it's just a
G.
duplication of wording.
Yes.
Yes, sorry, yes. Off, yes.
Well, we can move.
Combine that.
Yeah, so you're moving the changing to the wording of condition G, so that it moves. Okay, all right. Well, you've explained that. Anyone wish to speak to the item as well? Sorry, do we have a second? Need a second. Thank you. Councillor Peter, yes, thank you. Any discussion on it? If not, I'll put those three amendments to A, B and G. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor, again, is there anything else?
I think that's
all of those amendments that.
The advice note B to change the word as requested prior to occupation.
Okay.
There's quite actually a lot of changes to words. It's
All right.
the concern about the study being done in time.
All right, so you're moving the requested amendment to condition
To advice note B.
to, advice note B.
Yes.
Do I have a seconder to that? Yes, Dale, thank you. Discussion on it? If not, I'll put that amendment. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. And any others?
There's two more. Deletion of the
Yes, okay. Deletion of condition 28. Seconder? Yes. Thank you. We've got a seconder, Dale. And discussion on it? If not, I'll put that deletion of condition 28. All in favour? That's unanimous as well.
and also the deletion of condition advice note N that apparently is unnecessary.
Okay, all right. Deletion of advice note N as requested. Do I have a seconder? Well, thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. That's it. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Peter, you were seconder?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I seconded because it's a significant development to the city and it will bring more business to the city and employment, and we're desperately looking for more employment and more business to the city. And we have the similar project of last year. So the offices put a decent condition to meet the applicant requirement. So that's why I'm supporting this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peter. Any other panel members wish to speak to the item?
Yes, please.
Dale, thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I would like to speak to the item, but I would also like to move a couple of amendments, if that's okay.
Yes.
I would like to amend condition 8 to include the word to the satisfaction of Armadale at the end of that condition.
Okay, is there a seconder to that? Jackie, thank you. Yes, I think that reason is obvious. Any discussion on that? If not, I'll put that to a vote. All in favour of that? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Then I would like to delete subclause A from condition 12. I don't think it's necessary. It's making a comment about a draft plan that was submitted. I don't think commentary on plans is appropriate in a condition. And I think the fact that a dust management plan needs to be submitted and approved by the City of Armadale covers that off adequately.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Aninga. Yes, you've discussed the item. Any discussion on that? Any dissent? Jackie?
I'd like to recommend deletion of condition 12. I still think that condition 27 covers it. I don't think it's necessary, and it's referring to local laws, not just a third-party act.
We'll deal with the motion that's on the table.
Yes, I was going to say. Jackie, we'll deal with the motion on the table first, and then we'll entertain an alternative. Okay, so it's retaining condition 12, but deletion A. So condition B becomes condition A. Any dissent to that? Jackie, you are dissenting to that. So, well, that's alternative. Okay, I'll put that item to a vote that we delete condition 12A. All in favour? That's 3. Councillor Peter, how are you voting on that?
I'm voting against.
Okay, so it's carried 3-2. So condition 12, are you want to speak to that? No.
I have just one more.
All right, so that's condition 12 remains, and we do have a part A to it. Other amendment?
I'd like to see an amendment to delete advice note U. It just duplicates condition 1. I don't think.
Okay, I think it's fairly straightforward. I'll second that. Is there any discussion on that? If not, I'll put that advice note U is to be deleted. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, presiding member. So in relation to the primary motion, then the situation is a bit unusual. We've been asked to approve a DA ahead of the subdivision process, and that means we need to rely on the DA conditions to lock in some things that should have already been dealt with as part of subdivision and servicing. But I acknowledge the scale of and the investment into this development and the economic importance of it, and the situation the applicant finds themselves in with their current lease. So I will support the recommendation for approval, given it is substantially compliant with the local and state planning framework, and given the City of Armadale's commitment to continue to work closely with the applicant to assist in managing the issues of water and wastewater connection and associated state government requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the item? Jackie, please. Thank you.
Yeah, as I'm supportive of the development and acknowledge also the city's efforts to manage this process whilst managing the subdivision clearance process as well and those outstanding issues. As mentioned, I would like to put forward a motion to delete condition 12, as I think condition 27 does cover it, and we could add a word to condition 27 to say that construction management plan includes all phases or includes filling, the filling phase to cover that. But I think that generally a construction management plan is applicable to all stages, so condition 12 then becomes redundant.
So you're moving in speaking to the motion, you're moving deletion of condition 12 in its entirety. Do I have a seconder? that lapses for want of a second. Jackie, you wish to speak to the item again?
No, that's fair enough.
Okay, fine. Who else hasn't spoken? I think I'm the only one that hasn't. Okay, well, I'm supportive of the application, and I know that there are numerous examples of these sorts of applications that go before the subdivision approvals, and it does throw up a number of issues, and I think that both the council and applicants are to be commended with getting this far on it, and everybody tends to hold their breath a little bit when these timeframes are thrown at them, and but I think that with the best of goodwill, it's demonstrated that the applicants are happy with the conditions by and large, and there's support for them to undertake the development in what I think is an almost impossible time frame, but the applicants are satisfied that they'll get there. If not, they may have to rely on the goodwill of Perth Airport to give them a bit of an extension of time if they can't quite get there. But it covers the framework. The site is rapidly developing, and it's certainly the City of Armadale have been supportive of development in this locality for a long time, and this I think will be just a welcome addition to the economic development of the City of Armadale. So I'm supporting it, and I'll pass it back to the mover to close debate on the item.
Oh, thank you. I think we've spoken about have this development. Back with the aspects that still need to be sorted out, but yeah, broadly we.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll put the item to a vote, making sure that everybody's aware of the amendments that have been adopted to the responsible authority recommendation. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you for the presenters and council staff for your clarification of issues. Okay, all right.
Any comfort, the dust management plan lodged, clearly we didn't make it clear, was actually only indicative of the what we would be doing.
Okay, thank you. All right. 4 on the agenda is Form 2 DAP applications. There are none. Item 5, Section 2, SAT considerations. There are none. Part D, other business. We will note the SAT applications on the agenda. And item 2 under Part D is the closing of the meeting at 10:50 a.m. Thank you, participants and panel members. The only ones left, are they? And any viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.